Hi, very good morning. I'm Dr. Janak Patel, MD, General Physician. In continuity with the previous lectures, all my video lectures are for mainly educative purpose. This will be very helpful to you, particularly to the fourth year students in oral exams, also in theory, and once in a while you will see this group of people in your everyday practice. A person who comes with a stroke may come with one of these findings, that is aphasias, and will be also dealing with speech disorders. So speech, language, aphasia, aphonia, alexia, these are all the different words. Agraphia, acalculia, anomia, voice disorders, speech disorders, dysarthria, crossed aphasia, Broca's aphasia, Wernicke's aphasia, aphemia, apraxia, paraphasia, echolalia. These are all the different words and different terminology which will be a part of speech disorders due to damage to cerebral cortex, leading to some of these particular findings. We'll be talking about those in further slides. What is speech? Speech is an ability to understand and express. Means first you have to understand and then you express. How you express? By spoken or written words. Or it is also defined as expression or ability to express thoughts, ideas and feeling by sound, that is spoken or written words. That is speech. While language is a message that is contained in speech. So by speech you are communicating with another person. What you are doing? You are expressing. What you are expressing? Your thoughts, ideas and message by means of sound or by written words. That is speech. Reading and expressing is also a part of a speech. Communication process, communication symbol, etc. signals are also a part of a speech. Exchange of ideas, informations, thoughts, feeling between a sender and receiver is also defined as a speech, which can be by means of gesture, posture, eye contact, facial expression, or by head and body movements, etc. can be also utilized in a speech. So we have got a speech, we have got a language, and we have got a spoken language. Language will be different. We call English, Gujarati, Hindi, those we call as a language. While speech is a sound. So language is a system of symbol that individual uses for communication based on their culture. You will have an expression. So we call expressive language, and the person will receive. It is called receptive language. Now we are coming to how exactly this is being produced. So speech is an ability to understand and express oneself by spoken or written words. And for this, there are two main areas we call Broca's area and Wernicke's area. Along with that, there are visual area, auditory areas, but they are associated area or accessory areas. Broca's area is situated on the dominant hemisphere in the inferior frontal gyrus and the area number 44. It is called area number 44. And the function of this particular is spoken and written speech. And this particular is connected to Wernicke's area by arcuate fasciculus. And any damage to this Broca's area will produce motor, or we also use the word non-fluent aphasia, where person has got inability to express oneself by a spoken speech. He understands, he wants to express, but he cannot express because there is a damage to the motor area. It is also called as a motor aphasia. While Wernicke's area is the area which is posterior end of the superior temporal gyrus, and it is concerned with comprehension, planning of words, integrations, etc. And it is integrating with auditory area, auditory associated area, visual auditory areas, visual associated areas, accessory areas, as well as somatic areas. And it will send the signals to Broca's area via arcuate fasciculus. And then Broca's area will produce either a speech, that is spoken speech, or written words. Anything which damages the Wernicke's area, we'll label that as sensory aphasia or fluent aphasia or Wernicke's aphasia. And whenever you get a damage to arcuate fascicles, it will produce a disorder called communicating or connective aphasia. We'll be coming across that. So we have got a central mechanism, we have got a peripheral mechanism of a sound production, and that we call as a speech. Central is by two main area. We call that as Broca's area and Wernicke's area, and connecting fibers, that is, we have already shown you, arcuate fasciculus. And anything which damages this, particularly the dominant hemisphere, it will lead to what we call as aphasia or dysphasia. And again in that we divide into three: Wernicke's aphasia, Broca's aphasia, and connective aphasia. If there is anything which damages the articulating part of it, that is peripheral muscles, which takes part in articulation, we call as a dysarthria or anarthria. Those muscles, tongue, lips, soft palate, pharyngeal wall, facial muscles, etc. While if there is anything which produces damage to the larynx, that is vocal cord, and there is no production of sound, then we use the word aphonia or dysphonia. Abnormal, dysphonia. Total absence, aphonia. In simple, person listens to the sound, we call hearing, or he has got visual stimulus. It will go to the auditory area. Then it will be along with the associated auditory area, person understands what he has heard. Then he will have connection to Wernicke's area, where he will process thoughts, word processing, etc. will be done. And after that, it will be via arcuate fasciculus. The impulse will be transmitted to Broca's area. The Broca's area will now also will have little processing part. Then he will send an input to area number 4, what we call as a motor area. And that motor area will send an output to via pyramidal tract to brainstem nuclei, which are concerned with articulation and production of sound. And we get voice production and articulation together, and we produce a proper expression with thoughts and ideas. We call that as speech. So any disturbances in hearing can lead to deafness. Anything which produces a damage to Wernicke's area or to the Broca's area will lead to disorder we call Wernicke's aphasia or Broca's aphasia. Anything which leads to damage to voice production we'll call dysphonia or aphonia. And articulating parts or muscle which takes part in articulation, if there is any damage to those muscles, will end with dysarthria or anarthria. Motor aphasia, sensory aphasia, etc. So, Wernicke's area, and there is one area which is called Dejerine area. These are sensory speech centers. Now, how exactly it takes place? In short, it is being explained here. This is a very good slide. I got it from YouTube. Spoken speech, understanding the spoken words and expressing the ideas in speech. So, person hears the sound. Via auditory pathway, it goes to the area number 41, what we call as a primary auditory center. Then that is connected to associated areas number 20 and 21, where person understand the sound, what was the sound, what was the message given. Then that is comprehends, interpreted, understanding auditory and visual informations, whatever is given. And then it is connected to Wernicke's area, where you get comprehension, interpretation and understanding of auditory as well as visual information. And that area is called 22 area. And then Wernicke's area is connected to Broca's area, which is called area number 44, which is for speech. This is sensory area. Wernicke's area is a sensory area. While expression of speech, that is a speech pathway, or we call motor pathway or motor speech center, that is Broca's area, or there is another associated area called Exner's area. So area number 44 will process the information received from Wernicke's area into detailed and coordinated pattern for vocalization. It will project it to the motor cortex, means now it will transmit the impulse to area number 4, that is to motor cortex, which initiates the movements of lip, tongue, larynx to produce the speech. While associated area called Exner's area, which is a motor writing center, which is located in a premotor cortex. Now this particular area, if it is stimulated, it will process the information from Broca's area into detailed and coordinated pattern, which then along with the motor cortex initiates the movements of hands and finger to produce a written speech. So this will produce Sound. This will produce movement of hand and fingers. So this will be written speech, this will be spoken speech. So this will be the way. This is a motor and this is sensory pathway or sensory. So expression of spoken speech, highest area of hearing is 41 area, where the information goes to the Wernicke's area 22, which will interpret and understand the words via arcuate fascicle. It will go to Broca's area, where detailed coordinated patterns of vocalization will take place, and it will send an input to motor area number 4, where it will produce the appropriate muscles of lips, tongues, larynx, etc. to produce the sound, what we call as a speech, audible speech. While written speech means the words which are seen via visual pathway, it will first go to area number 17. It will be interpreted by area number 18 and 19, which is called visuopsychic area or associated areas. Then all those ideas express the idea in writing visual speech center, that is Desirine area number 39, located in angular gyrus behind the Wernicke's area in dominant hemisphere. And from this you will get an input to Broca's area. You will get an input to Broca's area, and where you will get pattern of coordination, etc. And then it will send an input to motor area, information to Exner area for written speech, and then that will send an input to pyramidal tracts, which will initiate the appropriate muscle movements of hand, finger, and you will get a written speech. So this is how the written speech will be there. So here this is audible sounds. So that sound will be transmitted to the primary auditory area. Then with the help of associated auditory areas, this will be comprehending the sound. Person will understand the sound and he will send that input to Wernicke's speech area. And that Wernicke's speech area will now comprehend everything, and via the arcuate fasciculus, it will send an input to Broca's speech area. Broca's speech area will again comprehend, will decide what to speak, etc. Already he has received the message from Wernicke's area. Now Broca's area will send that input to primary motor cortex, that is area number 4. Now this primary motor cortex will send an input to brainstem, where muscles of larynx and articulating muscles will be showing you that. As well as Broca's area is also connected to frontal lobe areas, as well as will be showing you that cerebellum, frontal lobe, basal ganglia also. This particular input will be given to brainstem nucleus 9, 10, 7 and 12. This cranial nerves takes part in articulations, and also there will be little fiber going to spinal cord. But main part, that is for vocational speech or sound, will be produced by larynx and will be helped by articulating muscles, which is supplied by 9, 10, 12 and 7. And if the impulse goes to spinal cord, it will give a stimulus to muscle fiber of hands, upper arm, wrist, fingers, etc. And that will give rise to what is called written speech. Now this Broca's area is supplied by middle cerebral artery, inferior branch, and Wernicke's area is supplied by middle cerebral artery, superior branch. So this is the part of vocational speech or sound and written speech. Basal ganglia takes part in maintenance of tone in those articulating muscles. And frontal lobe, as there is an associated area which takes part in expressing your thoughts, ideas, behavior, expressions while speaking, etc. So, reception of the sound signals, interpretation of the words in Wernicke's area, transformation of transmitted via arcuate fascicle, activation of Broca's area, motor cortex, and then motor cortex will control speech muscles via two, one acting on the larynx and one acting on the articulating muscles. This is how the reading process takes place and it is converted into written speech. So visual input, these are associated areas. Now in visual input, this input via the vision, that is optic nerve, it will go to occipital cortex, that is primary visual cortex number 17, associated area number 18 and 19, that is called visual associated cortex, that will comprehends, understands, will be connected to Wernicke's area, and that Wernicke's area will again comprehends, will give an information to Broca's area. Broca's area will again comprehends, will process, and will give an input to primary motor cortex area. That primary motor cortex area will now send an output to spinal cord, and spinal cord will stimulate the movement of hands, fingers, etc., and it will be converted into what we call as a written speech. So visual input converted into written speech. This already we have mentioned. Motor is Broca's, sensory is Wernicke's, connected by we call arcuate fasciculus. So this is Broca's area, which is a receiving input from Wernicke's area number 22. Broca's area is 44, 44, 45. There is an associated area, parieto-temporal occipital associated region number we call 39. And in a visual cortex, we have got main area 17, associated area is 18 and 19. And then final output from Broca's area is given to primary motor area called number 4. So first input to 22, that is primary auditory area, associated areas, then that goes to Wernicke's area from 41 to 22. That Wernicke's area via arcuate fiber gives an input to 44. 44 will give an input to 4, and 4 will have a control on brainstem and spinal cord, giving rise to audible speech and written speech. While visual input goes first to number 17, associated area 18, 19, then input is given to area number 39, and that will with 22 now connects to 44 and then finally to 4. So 44 area will receive an input, then with the help of 45 will comprehends. First input, auditory input is given to 41, which is connected to Wernicke's area number 22. 17 Associated areas is 18 and 19 connected to 39 with the help of 22. Now we'll give an input to 44 with the help of 45. Then finally output to 4. So auditory cortex, Wernicke's area, Broca's area, motor cortex. And then finally 2 brainstem areas, motor neurons and speech. In case of verbal thoughts, frontal area is the associated area and temporoparietal area is also associated areas which will take part in expression of thoughts, ideas in the form of verbal or in the form of written speech. So few cranial nerves will take part in articulation, that is trigeminal, facial, glossopharyngeal, vagus and hypoglossal. Accessory also takes part in some of the speech. Trigeminal also will take part in some of the speech. Production of the sound is at the larynx, where lungs, that is expiration, pharynx, oral cavity, etc. also takes part. This is a special scans which are being done, which shows when the person is looking at the words or looking, area number 17 is stimulated and associated area number 18 and 19 is stimulated. Listening to the words, area number 44, area number 41 is stimulated, and then Wernicke's area will be stimulated. This is speaking words, that is area number 4 will be stimulated, and generating words, that will be associated area with Broca's area will be stimulated. So these are different things. Hearing words will be auditory area and associated area, Wernicke's area will be stimulated. Speaking words will be Broca's area and area number 4. Thinking about the words, frontal lobe area will be stimulated. Seeing the words, visual cortex area will be stimulated. Whenever there is a damage to this arcuate fascicles, it is called conduction aphasia or associated aphasia, associative aphasia. Broca's aphasia, or also called as expression aphasia, motor aphasia, etc. While Wernicke's is sensory aphasia. And when you get the damage to arcuate fascicles, it is conduction aphasia. So Broca's aphasia or Wernicke's aphasia, alexia, agraphia will be because of damage to the angular gyrus, which are associated cortex. There can be transcortical aphasia if there is a damage to the connection of Broca's area and Wernicke's region. So you can have combinations of different types of aphasia depending upon the subcortical disconnections. Etiology wise, it can be congenital or acquired. In congenital, you can come across the deafness, and deafness will give rise to a dumbness. Among acquired, it can be because of the brain damage, which can be because of infection, trauma, tumor, vascular, or maybe also in case of hydrocephalus. And that will give rise to what we call as 3 different common variety of aphasia, that is Broca's aphasia, Wernicke's aphasia and connection aphasias. If there is a damage to brainstem, either because of poliomyelitis, motor neuron disease, GBS, vascular trauma or tumors, it will give rise to articulation disorders and sound production disorders. We call aphonia or dysphonia, which will be because of damage to larynx, particularly 10th cranial nerve or recurrent laryngeal nerve, or because of direct damage to the larynx part, we call as aphonia or dysphonia. And if there is a damage to articulating muscles, it will be dysarthria or anarthria. So damage to the larynx mainly may be functional, may be organic, may be neurogenic. Neurogenic will be because of damage to the 10th cranial nerve, while if there is any particular thing which damages the larynx part, it is called organic. While if it is a functional disorder, person will have a production of a sound, but it mimics that there is no sound production. So it will give rise to aphonia, dysphonia and hoarseness of voice. That will be laryngeal disorders. Acquired can be also because of cerebellar disorders, basal ganglia, myasthenia gravis. In cerebellar and basal ganglia, because of alteration in the tone in the articulating muscles, it will produce disorders in quality of speech. And psychogenic we call as a functional. So these are all the different groups. So commonest cause of aphasia is because of stroke, which can be ischemic or hemorrhagic, maybe because of brain tumor, infections like encephalitis, meningitis, or maybe secondary due to degenerative disorders like dementia, particularly Wernicke's and encephalopathy. Also in case of Alzheimer disease, those groups, even in case of NPH, or maybe also due to head injury. We already mentioned Broca's area is supplied by middle cerebral artery, inferior division, and Wernicke's area is supplied by superior division, which are the terminal branches of middle cerebral artery, and they will be involved in stroke, very commonly in thrombosis and embolism. You can classify the speech disorders into sound production, articulation, and control of sound production. Sound production is at the level of larynx. So if there is any disorders at larynx, it is mainly because of the 10th cranial nerve or a recurrent laryngeal nerve. And if there is any disorders of that, it is either called aphonia or dysphonia. If there is any disorders where 10th nerve is not involved, or vagus nerve or recurrent laryngeal nerve is not involved, but involvement of the laryngeal part, mainly because of laryngeal disorders like malignancy, edema, etc. You get voice quality is disturbed. That is called dysphonia, or even we use the word hoarseness of voice. But if there is a unilateral damage of recurrent laryngeal nerve, that will also produce dysphonia or hoarseness of voice. As far as the articulating muscles is concerned, which is supplied by 11th, 7th, 12th and 10th. Also 5th cranial nerve as well as 11th cranial nerve also do take part little bit in articulation. And the muscles which are taking part in articulation, the tone in that muscle is being maintained by basal ganglia, cerebellum. So even in a cerebellar disorders or basal ganglia disorders, you will have a alteration in articulation, and that will give rise to dysarthria. And if there is a severe, we call it anarthria. But the control of sound production, which is done by the cerebral cortex, mainly by the two main area, Broca's area and Wernicke's area. But there are a lot of other areas which is taking part in this. we call associated areas, and connection between Wernicke's and Broca's area, we call a arcuate fasciculus, and disorders of those we label them as aphasias. So you can have aphasia, dysphonia, that is hoarseness of voice, or aphonia, which is at the level of larynx, dysarthria, that is articulation disorders. There can be functional disorder or psychological, psychogenic or hysterical, where there is no damage to larynx, articulation or sound production. And you can have a permutation combination of disorders in aphasia groups, which are because of a subcortical damage or the damage to the cortex, which are associated with the speech disorders like alexia, agraphia, acalculia, Justman syndromes, all those groups, which is because of a cortical damages. So speech disorders you can divide into two big groups. We call dysphasia and dysarthria. I'll first go through dysarthria. That is difficulty in articulation, maybe because of cerebellar disorders or because of brainstem or because of pseudobulbar palsy or because of extrapyramidal damage, where motor tone is altered, in extrapyramidal tone is increased. In pseudobulbar palsy also there is motor tone increase. You get a typical spastic speech, or it is called Donald Duck speech. While in extrapyramidal, classical example in case of Parkinsonism, it is a monotonous speech. In a case of a bulbar damage, when soft palate is damaged, you get a typical nasal speech or nasal twang, and you have got a lower motor neuron type of a damage to the articulating muscle, we call as a flaccid muscles, and that gives rise to flaccid speech. While cerebellar disorders will produce difficulty in coordination, and that will produce slurred speech. And if there is any disorders in larynx, that will produce phonation disorders or sound production disorders. We come across what we call as aphonia if there is a bilateral vocal cord palsy. Sound production is not there, we get aphonia. But if there is a unilateral vocal cord involvement, we label that as a dysphonia or hoarseness of voice. So hoarseness of voice, or also called as bovine cough, can be produced. That will be the disorders of larynx muscles. While damage to the cerebral cortex can produce receptive aphasia or Wernicke's aphasia or sensory aphasia, where person is having a fluent speech, but it is containing lot of neologisms, and it is also described as a jargon speech. If there is a damage to Broca's area, it is also called Broca's aphasia or expressive aphasia or non-fluent speech, where person will not be able to express himself. He understands but he cannot express. If there is a damage to the angular gyrus, person will get a nominal aphasia, where person will not be able to name the object or name the items. And if there is a damage to arcuate fascicles, it is called conductive aphasia, where person is unable to repeat the sentence or repeat the words. These are the different varieties of aphasias which you will come across. So while taking a history, onset, comprehension, whether the person can comprehend, whether there is a spontaneous speech, how fast the speech is there, what is the word outflow, whether there is any slurring, whether person finds any difficulty in reading, writing, repetitions, how is the progress, any stress during speaking, looseness of tongue, paraphasias, etc. you look for. So we divide aphasia into motor, sensory and mixed. Motor is also called Broca's, or you call anterior or expressive or non-fluent aphasia. But by and large we use the word Broca's aphasia or non-fluent aphasia. sensory or Wernicke's or posterior or receptive or fluent aphasia. Common two words, Wernicke's and fluent aphasia. And when both area are involved, we call global or total or mixed aphasia. If there is a damage to angular gyrus and associated areas, we call nominal aphasia or anomic aphasia or amnestic aphasia. And if there is a damage to arcuate fasciculus, it is called conduction aphasia or associative aphasia. These are the different varieties of aphasias. So non-fluent, fluent, global or mixed variety. And there are other variety which are because of subcortical. So subcortical aphasia, mixed non-fluent aphasia, crossed aphasia, etc. These are the different words. We'll be going through only non-fluent, fluent, and nominal aphasias. So this is one way of classifying aphasia into motor and sensory. Sensory is also called receptive, posterior, or temporoparietal or fluent. Motor is called expressive, anterior, frontal, or non-fluent. And then further, sensory is divided into auditory agnosia or visual agnosia. Visual and auditory. That will be in sensory. While in motor, verbal aphasia or we call Broca's aphasia and writing aphasia. So this writing aphasia will be because of visual cortex damage and associated area damage. That is lesion of area number 45. This is the area number 44. And this will be visual agnosia because of damage to area number 18 and 19. While auditory agnosia will be a part of Wernicke's aphasia, which will be because of area number 22. So this will be different, and when both are involved together, it will be a global aphasia or called total aphasia or mixed aphasia, which is because of the damage to the area number 37 and extensive in all areas. Same thing is shown here. At your leisure time, you can go through. So there are few words now we'll be going through. Loss of language due to dysfunction of the central mechanism of the brain. We call that as aphasia. Minor disorders of the same means minor dysfunction. We call as a dysphasia. Say right hemiplegia producing dysphasia. Dysfunction of peripheral mechanism we call as a difficulty in articulation or defective articulation. We call as a dysarthria. Very commonly because of a lower motor neuron palsy, particularly facial palsy, pseudobulbar palsy, etc. Or damage to 5, 7, 9, 10, 11 and 12 cranial nerve producing muscles which takes part in articulation. If there is a damage to vocal cord, there is a loss of voice or loss of sound production. We call it a dysphonia. Vocal cord palsy, acute laryngitis, laryngeal tumor, laryngeal edema, etc. Loss of ability to read. Person can see but cannot read. That is called alexia. Very, very important. Person is not able to read and person is not able to write. We call it agraphia. Read, alexia, inability to write, agraphia. Remember this word, this can be asked to you in your oral exams. Word deafness is difficulty in understanding the meaning of the word what you hear. So it is a word which you listen but you cannot understand the meaning of that word. We call it a word deafness. Difficulty in understanding the meaning of the word you see or word you are reading is called word blindness. So deafness is hearing, difficulty in understanding the sound or meaning of the words what you have heard is word deafness, and what you are reading you can't understand that is called word blindness. There is one called as a bradylalia where there is a slowness in the speech, particularly very common in hypothyroidism, Parkinsonism and in a person with a depression. This is not the disorders of speech, but partly because of abnormality in the tone and abnormality in the sound productions and use of the muscles. Echolalia is repetitions of the same word what a examiner speaks like a parrot. It is called echolalia. Palilalia is repetition of the terminal words only. So last word whatever he speaks 2 times, 3 times. His own speech. So this will be repetition of the word. This is repetition of the last words of his own speech. And paraphasia is simple syllabic words are missing and is replaced by substitution like incorrect letters, incorrect words or new words, or we call neologisms, or nonsense word. Say like grass is green. Incorrect word, grass is blue, or grass is grums, which does not mean anything. So that is neologism. And whenever person is using this neologism, it is also called paraphasias. In Justman syndrome, there is a damage to angular gyrus and associated areas. So person will develop alexia, that is difficulty in reading, agraphia, that is difficulty in writing. Person will not be able to identify right and left. So person finds confusion between right and left identification and disoriented in right and left. Person will also have difficulty in calculation and person will not be able to identify even finger. That is why it is called finger agnosia. When all these things are together, you call that as Justman syndrome. And this will be because of damage to the dominant hemisphere and angular gyrus which is situated on the dominant hemisphere. And if that is damaged, you will end with Justman syndrome. And in a non-dominant hemisphere, you will get not Justman syndrome, but you will have hemi-neglects. Person will be neglecting the half side of the body. Hemi-neglect, it is called. So aphonia is total absence of sound production at larynx. Dysphonia is hoarseness of voice. Dysarthria is difficulty in articulation. Hysterical will pretend to have a disorder. Agnosia means inability to recognize. Prosopagnosia means facial blindness, means inability to recognize the face. Alexia means inability to read or inability to understand the written words. Agraphia and acalculia is inability to write and calculate. Anomia means inability to name the objects and person. Paraphasia is partial aphasia. And aphamia can be motor, that is Broca's motor or non-fluent aphasia is called aphamia also. So another name for Broca's motor, non-fluent or anterior or frontal, there is another name also, aphamia. These all the words can be asked in your oral, and if you remember once in a while, if someone is using those terms, you will understand that. Agnosia means inability to recognize sensory input, that is object, picture, faces, color, etc. Prosopagnosia is recognizing the face is disturbed, and that we call as prosopagnosia. Person is not able to recognize those face. So classification we already mentioned. Nominal aphasia, non-fluent we call Broca's, or anterior or frontal or motor, while fluent is Wernicke's or sensory, or we call posterior, etc. And person. So this is called non-fluent, is also called motor. Fluent is called sensory. And if you can't recognize the words, you can't recognize the sensory input, we call it as agnosia. You can't calculate or you cannot write down written, that is acalculia. In motor you will come across a thing called apraxia. Alexia is reading. Agraphia is again writing. Aphemia is a second word utilized for non-fluent aphasia. Paraphasia is what? Partial defect in that motor variety. There is also subcortical damage can produce cross aphasia. So aphasia you divide into expressive and receptive. Expressive you can call that as non-fluent Broca's. Fluent variety you call as a Wernicke's or fluent. So when there is a damage to Broca's area, you get a non-fluent or Broca's. Wernicke's area, you get fluent. And if there is a damage to the arcuate fibers, we get conduction aphasias. If there is a damage to angular gyrus, you get nominal or anomic or amnestic aphasia. And if there is a widespread damage, we call total, global or mixed variety. These are all the different words. Subcortical damage, we get cross aphasia. Partial damage to Broca's area, we call as a paraphasias. If you get the damage to angular gyrus areas, which are associated area, you get acalculia, agraphia, alexia, etc., agnosias. Also, a damage to Broca's area is called aphemia. And you can use the word, there is apraxia also. We already mentioned both of these. Sensory we call as Wernicke's, motor we call as a Broca's. Now in a nominal, person is not able to find the name of the object. He understands for what purpose that object can be utilized. What is that object? But he cannot find the name. That is called nominal or anomic or amnestic aphasia. Very, very typical. In a Wernicke's aphasia, person is not able to understand, comprehends. Hence, person has got Broca's area intact, so he can speak. His speech is fluent, but it will contain lot of newer words which has got no meaning. Neologism, logoria, inability to stop speaking. These are the peculiarities of Wernicke's aphasia, and that is also described as jargon's aphasia. So person has got a fluent speech. It contains lot of newer words. Person cannot stop. Say as for example, someone has asked, how you came today? So he says that I started from home, river was there, I sit in a train, then I went to Sri Lanka. So that does not give you any particular understanding of those particular speech, and there will be lot of newer words, that is called neologisms. Very typical in case of a Wernicke's aphasia. Funny words he will utilize. Most important part, as there is a damage to the posterior part, person will never have hemiplegia with Wernicke's aphasia. But in a case of a global aphasia, person can have hemiplegia with Wernicke's aphasia. But by and large, pure Wernicke's aphasia, beginning a posterior, there is no damage to the motor area. there will be no hemiplegia. So, person will have a fluent speech, comprehension will be impaired, repetition will be impaired, reading will be impaired, and person will have a bizarre neologism and logoria. So person will not be able to stop speech. So that is very typical of Wernicke's aphasia. While in a Broca's aphasia, non-fluent speech, there are limited words, person understands, person wants to express, but he cannot. That is typical of Broca's aphasia, and very commonly this will be associated with hemiplegia, and particularly dominant hemisphere damage will produce the most common group of people, because majority of the people are right-handed. So in a right hemiplegia, damage to the left side cerebral cortex, Broca's area, will produce right side hemiplegia with Broca's aphasia. And if there is a damage to subcortical region, you can get crossed aphasia also, and that will be one variety. So there is a spontaneous speech, but non-fluent, naming is little impaired, comprehension is intact, repetition is impaired, reading is normal. You might have sometime reading getting affected. Very commonly person who have a right side hemiparesis or right side hemisensory loss, that may be there along with Broca's aphasia. In global, mixture of the two, all functions are affected, means sensory as well as motor. So in a global aphasia, severe impairment, speaking, listening, reading and writing all are affected. So that will be typical, extensive. If there is a damage to arcuate fascicles, person will get what is called conduction aphasia or associated aphasia, where person is not able to repeat the sentence what an examiner has spoken. So that is very peculiar in this associative aphasia. Wernicke's aphasia is intact, Broca's aphasia is intact, but input from Wernicke's to Broca's is not transmitted because of damage. So person understand, person can speak, but he cannot repeat that sentence. So expressive aphasia or non-fluent aphasia, receptive aphasia or we call fluent aphasia or Wernicke's aphasia, anomic aphasia, which is because of the damage to what we call as angular gyrus areas, global aphasia, which is an extensive damage or we call mixed variety, and you can have sometime primary progressive aphasia, which is a very rare variety. Little difference between Broca's and Wernicke's aphasia. In Broca's there is a limited words, difficult to find the words, person is aware, he understands, he wants to express but he cannot, so he get frustrated, he will have a psychological problems, and this is because of the damage to the Broca's area. While Wernicke's, the person has got fluent speech but has got neologism, logoria, and is unaware of what he is speaking. So indirectly Wernicke's area, number 22, when you get the damage, you get Wernicke's aphasia where comprehension is absent, repetition is absent, but person has got fluent speech. While in Broca's, damage to the area number 44, comprehension is present, but he cannot repeat, he cannot have a fluent speech. In global, all the three are affected. Comprehension is absent, repetition is absent, fluency is absent. That will be in global. So logoria, irrelevant speech, neologism, newer words, or it is also called jargon speech, and there will be new paraphasias also. While in a Broca's, person will have a little amount of dysarthria, agrammatic speech, The words will not be there. Person will not be able to use those proper words. He understands, but he cannot express. That is non-fluent speech. So same thing is explained here in summary, that in a broadcast, it will be a non-fluent. Comprehension is there, but repetition and naming is poor. While in case of Vernius, it is fluent. Comprehension is very, very poor. Repetition is poor. Naming is also poor. While in anomic, it is one variety of, because it is one variety of a sensory only. So it is fluent. Comprehension is good. Repetition is there. But naming of the object is poor. So these are the common three groups: Broca's, Wernicke's, nominal. And in case of conduction, it is one variety of fluent aphasia. Comprehension is there, but repetition is not possible, and even naming is not there. So that will be the difference between nominal aphasia and conductive aphasia. So roughly, so there is a disturbances in writing in case of Wernicke's. These are the little additional what I have mentioned. Writing will be affected in case of a global and in case of Wernicke's, while it will be preserved in case of a Broca's. And naming will be preserved in Wernicke's, but it will be absent. You will not be able to name properly in case of a Broca's aphasia. Now, as far as phonation is concerned, you can have three classical disorders called functional disorders, organic disorders, and neurological. Neurological are very simple. Whenever there is a damage to cranial nerves, particularly 10th cranial nerve, which is supplying the vocal cord, you will have a difficulty in phonation and you will come across what we call as aphonia. Or if unilateral damage, you will have dysphonia, or we call hoarseness of voice. While in functional, person can produce a sound, but he pretends that there is an absence of sound. While if there is any disorders of larynx, like laryngeal edema, laryngitis, tumors, etc., that will be organic groups. So functional aphonia, dysphonia, nodule, traumatic injury, etc., can produce disorders. Organic will be laryngitis, laryngeal carcinoma, papilloma, granulomas, laryngitis, etc. Those will be organic. While neurological will be recurrent laryngeal nerve palsy, those groups. And we know that left recurrent laryngeal nerve goes right into the thorax and then hooks around the left bronchus, and then it innervates the left side vocal cord. So you can have involvement of the recurrent laryngeal nerve left side in even thorax, like because of left atrial enlargement and also bronchogenic carcinoma. So do remember that. While both right and left recurrent laryngeal nerve can be involved while doing a surgery on thyroid gland, parathyroid gland, tracheal surgery, esophagus, block dissections, or because of any pathology concern with the carotid arteries. So these are some of the neurological disorders. So when both recurrent laryngeal nerve are paralyzed, you will get aphonia. Classical example, Guillain-Barré, poliomyelitis, motor neuron disease, diphtheria, or because of the damage to medulla. In these conditions, you will have aphonia. While sound is produced but person pretends to have aphonia, will occur in a hysterical, or we call as psychogenic. If there is a damage to articulating muscles, either by 5th cranial nerve or 7th, 9th, 10th, 12th cranial nerve, you get production of the sound. Certain words will be difficult. Say like in case of a soft palate palsy and N production will be difficult. If lips is involved, which is because of seventh cranial nerve, then P and B production will be difficult. If tongue is paralyzed, T and L production will be difficult. This will produce a disorder we call as a dysarthria. Also, dysarthria can be because of abnormal tone in the muscles, as for example in case of Parkinsonism, cerebellar disorders, basal ganglia disorders, etc. So aphonia in bilateral paralysis of vocal cord, disease of larynx, then respiratory movement disorders, spastic dysphonia, spasm of the glottis, etc. And that you can put in organic groups. While hysterical can phonate when coughing or when you ask the person to open the oral cavity and take deep breath. So that will be as far as aphonia is concerned. So aphonia can be neurogenic, no sound production at larynx, and because there is no movement at vocal cord cannot close. So person will have aspiration. Very frequently, person will complain of aspiration, and person can develop aspiration complications like aspiration pneumonia and collapse. Hysterical person will pretend to have no production of sound, but person can produce a sound. When you ask the person to open the oral cavity and say ah, person will produce that sound. And you will be able to see the vocal cord movement during coughing by direct or indirect laryngoscopy. And also vocal cord will move during coughing or while breathing, and also while production of the sound like ah. So that will help you to differentiate between neurogenic and hysterical. Dysphonia is mainly because of the involvement of the larynx like laryngitis, etc. Very, very common. And maybe because of unilateral vocal cord palsy. And that we usually use the word hoarseness of voice. Dysarthria is because of lower motor neuron or upper motor neuron. Lower motor neuron will be flaccid, upper motor neuron will be spastic, and in extrapyramidal system, again you will have a spastic dysarthria. In case of cerebellar, you will have a difficulty in articulation, and that will produce scanning speech, or we call difficulty in articulations, staccato speech. That will be in cerebellar dysarthria. So you can have a cerebellar disorders because of increased tone in the muscle, and we call rigid. That is classical in case of Parkinsonism. In case of pseudobulbar also, we'll got spastic dysarthria. In bulbar palsy also, you can get flaccid dysarthria. These are the different types depending upon the tone and how severe the tone is increased and articulations. In case of cerebellum, it is because of incoordination. You will have a scanning speech or staccato speech. Different words are utilized. So upper motor neuron will be very common in case of pseudobulbar palsy, while lower motor neuron will be more common in case of a lower motor neuron palsy in 5, 7, 9, 10, 11 and 12, and they will produce difficulty in articulations because of decreased tone in the muscle. While in case of a cerebellum, it is because of incoordination. In basal ganglia, substantia nigra, it is because of increased tone in the muscle. And in pseudobulbar palsy, bilateral upper motor neuron palsy will have increased tone in the muscle. So in a stroke, both you can get upper motor neuron as well as lower motor. Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis will have both upper motor neuron, lower motor neuron. Cerebral palsy can have upper motor neuron as well as lower motor neuron involvement. Tumor can produce both. Trauma, multiple sclerosis can produce both. But in Wilson disease, because of damage to basal ganglia, it will be pure upper motor neuron. Myasthenia gravis will be purely muscle. At myoneural junction, it will be lower motor neuron. Bell's palsy will be purely lower motor neuron. Guillain-Barré will be purely lower motor neuron. Poliomyelitis, motor neuron disease will be lower motor neuron type of damage. management part, treatment of the treatable cause. Speech therapy is absolutely essential for improving the quality of speech. And there are some conditions which can be treated medically, you can treat them, and some may require surgical intervention. So I end my lecture here. Now, if you like this particular lecture, please don't forget to press button like, subscribe, and you can share with your friends. You can give your suggestions so that I can improve. So thank you all for taking out time. I know that your time is valuable and I appreciate that you have spent some of the time with me. This will be useful in your theory as well as oral exams. And once in a while in your everyday practice also you will come across a person with different varieties of aphasia, that is sensory, motor, or nominal aphasia, or person might have different types of what we call as a disorders like alexia, agraphia, acalculia, etc. You can see sometime in your everyday practice. See you in next lecture.